UNC Pembroke baseball checked back into the national rankings at number 27, as the Braves have now won 10 in a row following a weekend sweep at Flagler and a win at Barton. This weekend, the Braves play a home-and-home against Coker starting today at 1 p.m. with a game in Pembroke. UNCP softball concluded its season by placing 3 players on the Peach Belt Conference All-Academic team. The Braves wrapped up play last weekend with a split at Montevallo. UNCP Golf competed at the Peach Belt Conference Championships last weekend, placing 3rd as a team. Senior Ashley Thompson led the way with a season-low 69. And UNCP Track and Field will be competing at its Peach Belt Conference Championships this weekend in Montevallo, Alabama. For full results, visit uncpbraves.com. The Black and Gold Report starts now. Welcome to our final episode of the Black and Gold Report for the 2016-17 school year. I'm Cameron Songer, and we have a lot to get to today, starting with a spring football recap with head coach Shane Richardson. Coach, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cam.
Your team wrapped up the spring portion of the schedule with the spring game last week. A lot of stuff went into that. Can you give us a recap of the spring portion of your schedule?
Yeah, I think this spring we had a couple objectives of what we wanted to accomplish with our guys. We wanted to try to actually, it sounds a little bit funny, but we wanted to press upon them a maturity on them to help them grow up a little bit quicker than really where they are at actually. And so we took an approach to where we really tried to outline and detail a lot of things for those guys to get them caught up to speed. It's a young group, and so there's a lot of guys that are actually in roles that are performing and playing right now for the spring that have not been around or have gone through a fall season and stuff like that. So I think just trying to help them mature quickly, that was something that we really tried to focus on, and our guys did a great job of it. They really responded. We went through about 8.5 weeks of training, weight room, on the field, conditioning, and then for the last 5 weeks, obviously went through practicing and meetings and a lot of installing offense, defense, special teams. And so I think from the start to the finish, I'm very pleased with where we're at, and our guys have responded. I think they've grown closer together. They've become more comfortable with the coaching, really the staff in terms of how we run the program. And, I think it's been a very pleasing, just production in terms of what we've done.
In terms of the actual layout of the spring practices, can you talk a little bit about what the schedule would sort of look like for your guys out there?
Yeah, so when we started, we really went with like a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday routine, and it was for 5 weeks, and then ended off with a spring game on Thursday night. Well, what we wanted to do is basically each practice give them different scenarios and make sure that we were progressing and use progression as their way of just learning and understanding football. And I think what happened was we started off very basic, and practice 1 was a very quick individual period, a very quick team period. We were in helmets and just tried to get things introduced. And by 15, we were able to play a full game and really understand sequences and transitions and first down, second down, third down, and how special teams fit into it. And I know that might sound a little bit simple, but when you're dealing with a whole group that needs to get on the same page, I think it was really important. By the time that we ended off the spring game, we got to that point where I felt really good with where our team was at.
When you're looking at individual guys and evaluating how they did for the spring, how much do you weigh spring game performance versus the entire 5-week sequence?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think because we don't go live a lot of times, really throughout the spring or even in the fall, of course on Saturdays in the fall we do, but in terms of preparation practice time, we don't necessarily go live a lot, and so we don't tackle and hit to the ground. Well, you've got to see those scenarios to see if a guy's going to be able to perform what you're really coaching them to do. And that's really a big indicator for us to be able to say, okay, how did he do, on that stage and in that scenario and in that particular game opportunity. But you've got to also look at the body of work. And so I think both go into it. We've got to, and what we're doing right now as a coaching staff is making sure we're going through every single player from a detail standpoint, making sure we don't lose any details of the whole process, as well as what's it look like when he had a chance to compete and step up to the plate.
Turning to the actual game now, the spring game used that offense versus defense format. Talk a little bit about that and how it allowed you to sort of evaluate things. What'd you see?
Yeah, I don't know that it was an exact science in terms of if it was fair or not for O&D. The defense certainly on the scoreboard showed that they were much better than the offense, but I don't know if that was a true indicator of necessarily how it was or how it should be. I think offensively we grew a lot. We were very young offensively at some positions because we've got some guys out with injuries right now. There's some guys that just didn't partake in spring ball just to the nature of their status and situation class-wise. And so I think that in and of itself offensively, it made it look a little bit disjointed out there. But I feel very good about the progress we've made there on the offensive side. Defensively, I think we've got a very solid unit there and a good foundation, a lot of core players that were here, are going to be here, and got very valuable reps. There's also a couple players that are out on defense that I think will be back in the fall that will really help us. And so I feel really good about where both sides are. I guess next year we need to just work on the scoring system to make sure we don't get in the hundreds or something like that. So
yeah, the score being 127-51 in favor of the defense. Was there a lot of trash talking between the two units maybe after the game?
Well, there was, because we said that it pays to be a winner, and we try to really incite that competition. And every practice we're trying to give some incentive to whoever wins and between offense and defense, and there certainly is still an incentive for that game, so they'll find that out soon.
We need to take our first time out here on the Black and Gold Report, but stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages. Back here on the Black and Gold Report, talking UNCP spring football with head coach Shane Richardson. Coach, the spring game dominated by the defense. Who were some of the guys who stood out to you on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I think up front, we've got some defensive linemen that can really get after the passer. And so I think Tyler Hinton as an older guy, Tajay Lyles, who's really grown a lot and developed. We've also got some linebackers that I thought played well, Chris Plotch and Cameron Williams, that who will be coming back. They got some good experience last year there. And then in the secondary, Bakimbe Kearney has experience there, Josh Manns has experience there, and then we got some young corners that can fly around, and we're trying to see how that's going to fit in. And so there's a good nucleus of guys who have talent and yet are buying into code black of playing hard, playing fast, and playing together. And we're trying to just continually bring all that together and make sure that it is one unit on that field playing extremely hard, fast, and together when we put it out there.
As for the offense, which will be without departing seniors B.J. Bunn and Rontonio Stanley, among others, especially the wide receiver and running back positions, who made a case for you during the spring for an increased role?
Yeah, I think starting with the running game, I really like our running back situation right now. I think Miles Grant, Quad Williams, and Josh Sheridan, those three have really stuck out. And then Brian Staten, he really gives us a different type of feel also in the running game. Those four guys, I think, at tailback have really stepped up. Miles and Josh and Quad, I think, have gotten the bulk of the carries here this spring, and those are going to be sufficient running backs for us. And so obviously we're going to have to create some holes for them up front, but I think if we can give them just a little bit of something, they can make something out of it, and I'm really excited about those guys. In the passing game and as far as our receivers, I think Quay Threed is going to be a definite threat for us. He was hindered by just a little bit of injury there in and out of spring, but he'll be very good for us once he gets healthy. Jonathan Allen, I think, is very dynamic and can really make people miss, and had a few catches there on Thursday night, and I think he'll be very good for us. And then, I think we're going to have a lot of good young receivers coming in. I expect some of those guys to compete for some time, and so I think we'll end up having a really good receiving situation with some other guys competing and trying to push each other. Our numbers were a little thin here this spring, but that's the nature of what you want, to be able to bring in numbers to compete and bring everybody's level up. So we look forward to that in the fall.
Spring game in the rearview mirror now. What does the summer look like for the Braves in terms of getting ready for that opener on August 31st?
Yeah, I think, when we talk to our team, May, June, and July are extremely big for us, and it's a time now where coaches are a little bit more hands-off and we don't get the meeting time and really some of the hands-on access to them. And so they've got to take it upon themselves now to commit themselves to knowing that these next 3 months, it's going to be really important for our success come August 31st and for the whole rest of the season. And so we've got to have leadership step up and understand that we've got a weight room program that's going to be running here throughout the summer for those 3 months. And it's going to be big for our guys to be able to stay together and buy into that and to really be here on campus as much as possible throughout that time period.
Coach, before we let you go, let's take a look at the schedule. 4 home games for UNC Pembroke, including 3 before the end of September. You have that scheduling agreement with the South Atlantic Conference in place. What excites you about next year?
Yeah, I think it's just it's a new opportunity. I mean, there's going to be some new teams that we play. Obviously the SAC Alliance, we're extremely thankful for that, and I think with travel and the region and just how that plays into everything, I think that's really exciting. And then, we get to play Elizabeth City State, who is a new opponent. We've never played them before. It's an in-state school, and I think that'll be a fun challenge. I'm really excited about our schedule, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure that we actually can focus on how we play each week, not really who we play. And so, as fun as it is to look at the teams that we play against, I mean, it still is all about us, and we're going to keep that moving forward.
UNCP football coach Shane Richardson, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Cam.
We need to take another break here on the Black and Gold Report, but we'll be right back. Stay tuned.